All right, let's get right to work here.
I've stood there in that same bar in Boston, and I've been to some of the other bars, but I stood where Sam Adams stood, and Paul Revere, and certainly James Madison, and the same place that he give me liberty or give me death. I mean, it's an extraordinary moment, and even
the two of you
summer,
share that unique patriotism. I mean, you actually feel it physically, emotionally, when you're standing in history like that. These were great people, and she does the same. So
yeah, well,
you know,
and
siblings.
Yeah, we are, and this summer, this journey across America from the west to the east, and to stand on the same spot where Abraham Lincoln, gave his 2-minute speech, the Gettysburg Address, on the Gettysburg battlefield on Cemetery Ridge. There, I stood where he stood. I breathed the same air. I literally went into tears. I love America. I love all Americans. I love what has been created for us and that we have defended for 244 years. And of all the things I've done this summer, to stand there where Lincoln gave his Gettysburg Address, let me tell you, heartfelt emotion. Of course, most of you know my father was a Marines, United States Marine Corps, Master Sergeant Howard Wooldridge, 27 years in service to this country, fought in the Marshall Islands in World War II. And as a service brat, you better believe I stand for the flag in the morning and at taps, because it is the greatest honor to cherish and honor our flag, the Stars and Stripes, with all 50 states and 13 original colonies there in the red and white stripes. We are the most blessed country in the world for every race, every creed, every color, every ethnic group. Everyone should be getting down on their knees thanking God that they got here, however they got here, and get to be living as an American citizen. That's in my core right there.
Good job. Well said. Okay, for all of you who have just tuned in, go to guests, right, at the top of the site, and click on, well, let me see how it's arranged. I sent it all over there. And there it is. Okay. Go down, scroll down. Oops. Hit the wrong one. Tonight's guests. That's what I want. Okay. Frosty. Part 1, Part 2, 3, 4, and Part 5. The Adventures Across America. Summer of 2020. They're all up there under Frosty's name. They will be in his adventure columnist box. Frosty has 2 columnist sections on the site, and you're certainly invited to read all of them and enjoy them anytime you want. If you want to take a little mental trip, get some fresh air, and get that sense of being outside and alive, read Frosty. You'll get there real quick. So we'll pull up number 1, Adventures Across America. Summer of 2020. Frosty was gone for 5 months, I guess, from this program, exploring, doing what he does best. And here it is, Part 1. So take it away, Frosty. Where did you go first?
All right. This adventure
and look
summer,
at the
you
photos.
all know...
By the way, look at the photos. Some remarkable pictures. Go ahead.
Yeah, the key is that when I write an adventure book, and I think many of you have read, and it's doing pretty well, you can go to Amazon, and it's Zen Between Two Bicycle Wheels, Eat, Pedal, Sleep, that came out in June, and it's a journey down the West Coast with my wife Sandy and myself on bicycles, almost 2,000 miles, and the journey was filled with fun and laughter, and my wife Sandy gave some advice to women who marry or are with a wandering man, a wanderer, and that's what I've been my whole life, as a wanderer, to attach and get in and go, and there's another bicyclist in the world. His name is Heinz Stück. He's a German.
Oh, yeah.
And he was working, he's 80 years old, and he's been to every country in the world in the last 50-something years, so he's just a little bit older than me. I think he's been to 196 countries. And he's done it all on a bicycle, and the reason he did is because he was in he was in a machine shop in Germany, and it tore at his soul, and he said, I've got to escape this. And he did on a three-speed steel bike. And this bike has lasted, I mean, phenomenally for all these 50 years.
A 3-speed bike.
Yeah, three-speed. Yeah, 3-speed.
The old 3-speed bike with a little lever on the handlebars that you click up and down. That's wild.
Yeah, go on to the internet and just put Heinz Stück, S-T-U-C-K-E. He's written one book that was a bestseller, Bicycling Around the World. And, of course, those of you who have read my book, Bicycling Around the World, Tire Tracks for Your Imagination, that's been out for, I don't know, about 15, 16, 17 years now. It's on Amazon. And people are astounded at the stories, and what it is an anthology of my 6 continents of touring, right up to bicycling and camping out in Antarctica, which one of the chapters is called A Moment Frozen in Time, and that was one extraordinary moment. As a matter of fact, that is published individually. It was a point where I had bicycled onto the ice at McMurdo there in Antarctica and got out on the ice, and there's sastrugi. Sastrugi is wind-blown ice and snow that forms triangles, boxes, oblongs, squares, circles, you name it. It's just unbelievable. It's a whole new creation in life. And I don't know if anybody knows this, but down in Antarctica, there's something like 80 different kinds of ice. 80 different kinds. Some are called pancake ice. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. And the sastrugi is the pack ice. And it gets, the winds it's just extraordinary. I've got tons of pictures from my time down there. But anyway, during that moment frozen in time that's in my book, Bicycling Around the World, there is a moment where I actually came up on these penguins, a family of penguins, and the penguins came up to me, and I knelt in the snow, cross-legged, and I took my gloves off. And you have to realize it was 20 below zero. I could see my own breath crystallize. But it was a blue sky day, and it was just gorgeous. And the one lead penguin, and these things are like 40 pounds, and they stand about 40 inches high, 36 inches to 40 inches high, these emperor penguins. And they squawk, and they purr. They're birds. And he came up to me, and I reached my hand out, and he scratched his beak in the palm of my hand, and I described this whole thing. And at that moment in time, it was such an extraordinary moment in time, because I remember once in the Rocky Mountains where I live here in Colorado, I once went up to a feeder, and I put my finger out, and a hummingbird landed on my little pinky, and the little talons clasped my pinky, and it was the most delicate touch. And so here are these two references in my life where I'm out in the natural world, and I put my hand out to touch a penguin, and we had this communication for a moment in time. And then I put my little pinky out in a warm, sunny day next to a hummingbird feeder.
What a connection.
What a connection. Wow. And so that kind of thing, and that's what I describe in all my anthologies on these 6 continents in that book, Bicycling Around the World. And also, there's another book out there that was written back in 1884 to 1886. Thomas Stevens, another one of my heroes. You all know that I've got heroes, and a lot of them ride bikes. And Thomas Stevens was on a high-wheeler, or you also know it as a penny farthing. And I have his book literally in my library here. I don't get rid of my...
He rode a high-wheeler?
He rode a high-wheeler.
Those are the books, the old books that talk about the bicycles that... They're not like our bicycles. Describe a high-wheeler.
Okay, it's called a penny farthing, and what it is the wheel itself is almost 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
And it has pedals on the axle, and then it has two handlebars right over the top of the axle, and then a steel shank goes down, and then it goes to a little wheel, a penny and a farthing. And so they're called high wheelers. And matter of fact, there's a high wheeler club here in Golden, Colorado, which I see these high wheelers all the time. And as a matter of fact, and I'll share this with you, Thomas Stevens, back in 1884 to 1886, jumped on a high wheeler and bicycled around. He bicycled across the United States. First to do it. He was the first to bicycle around the world for 3 solid years and ended back up in San Francisco. And he wrote a book, and he was a journalist. I had to get the dictionary out to figure out a lot of the words that he used because they were from back in 1884, and I didn't know the words. So I'm sitting there learning all these new words. But he was also a pen and ink. He was pen and ink artist. And so every one of his chapters is filled with the different pen and ink drawings that he had, and it brought his unbelievable travels to life in the pen and ink drawings. And so just about 3 miles from me is another man named Steve Stevens. Steve Stevens, here in Golden, Colorado, just 3 miles away from me, and I've been to his house. He owns one of the 3 Columbians, high wheelers, that went around the world. Well, guess what? He retraced, back in the 80s, he retraced the entire trip by Thomas Stevens, no relationship. He retraced the entire trip of Thomas Stevens around the world himself, and he also rode from San Francisco to New York City, and I think it was in 29 days and so many hours, and it's in the Guinness Book of World Records. You can look it up, and his name is Steve Stevens. And in fact, you could actually go to his he's got a website. It's called something cyclery. I've got it right here, and you can see he has all of these old, fantastic old high wheelers and the first bikes out there with triple pedals and triple just everything under the sun. And if you go to the site, you will be delighted to see all of those bikes, and they're all lined up in his own house there.
Okay, what were the wheels, the tires made of back then?
Oh, solid just hard rubber. Yeah,
hard rubber.
Yeah. Okay, here it is, right here. Steve Stevens, Golden Oldie Cyclery. So you just go www.goldenoldie. Oh yeah, just a Golden Oldie. So www.golden GOLDENOLDY.org. He's
one more time. Golden Oldie.
Oldie.org. OLDY.org.
Got it. All right.
That's his website.
Everybody's okay.
Yeah. So. This guy, we're talking tougher than nails. I got to tell you, to try to ride a high wheeler with no gearing over the top of the Rocky Mountains, 12,000-foot passes. I do it all the time, but I've got 21 gears on my bike. And, it's a piece of cake. This guy set out around the world on a high wheeler, and all he carried a pistol with him and a couple of bottles for water and a pack on his back, and he had kind of a British helmet.
There were no roads back then.
No,
not even
right, there were no
paths. Hey,
right.
I don't understand it. You've ridden a high wheeler. What is it like physically?
Well,
how hard is it?
You're about 8-9 feet up above the pavement. I've ridden these high wheelers, and he rides them here for all the different parades and so forth. And it's a kick. But here's the thing: they're so delicate. You got to stay completely 100% alert at all times, and when you brake, you've got to almost sit your butt back a little bit to get back past the front axle, because if you brake too much or too hard, you will be flying literally forward over the handlebars.
9 feet, and the ground is not forgiving. Oh,
right.
Yes.
And so you really have to push these things up the mountain, and you don't dare ride them down because if they get going and you can't slow them down because you have to backpedal on them. I'll tell you what, it's a dangerous bike. But anyway, these two men, and I actually did an interview with him. But as I told you, because I'm a highly controversial public figure, unfortunately the magazines won't publish me.
Highly
and Adventure Cycling magazine
and
won't
brave
publish me.
American patriot is what you are, and you know it.
Well, I know, but I'd like to tell that to Alex Strickland over there at the. He won't even review any of my books. The last 2 years, he hasn't reviewed my Old Men Bicycling Across America, A Journey Beyond Old Age, and he won't accept any of my submissions. And I've got submissions that literally would just pop everybody's cork because they're so extraordinary from my experiences. Right. And yet, because of the political climate and the bias, both him and the last editor, Mike Demme, completely have blackballed me from writing. And I've supported and written for Adventure Cycling magazine 20 years ago, some extraordinary stories. But unfortunately, here in this country, if they don't like your politics, that's the unfortunate thing that's happening to us, is that if you're one party or the other, you're the villain or you're terrible or you're this, that, and the next thing, when in fact we're all Americans and we're all in this together, and we better be pulling in the same direction. But anyway, that's just a sidelight.
His museum is just looking at the pictures. Yeah. What history! What amazing things! It's OLDY, everybody. Golden Oldie, OLDY.org. GoldenOldie.org.
Yeah.
And these high wheelers, I don't know how in the hell do you get up on top of it to start pedaling?
There's a little off the back of the frame there is a little
step
peg.
Up.
Yeah, it's a step up. You can jump up on that step up, but yeah, that's right.
And look at the seat.
Ouch. Oh yeah. It's a leather seat. I mean, we're talking, you got to be hardcore. So both Thomas Stevens in 1884, and then of course Steve Stevens of 2020. These guys are hardcore guys. I got to tell you, I'd think twice before I was going to ride a high wheeler around the world, even on all pavement, for heaven's sake.
That's incredible. That truly is amazing. All right, hold on a minute. Frosty and I'll be right back. Go take a look at this while we're away for a couple here. Golden Oldie, OLDY.org. We'll be right back. Let's go. You want to take a look at part one, Frosty? Just look at some of the pictures, and people can read the delicious text, which is truly good. You write beautifully. Yeah.
Well, thank you. We're having a good time. And I want all the women out there to appreciate that I hang with some pretty wild characters out there. And there's another one, because there's women out there doing the same thing, whether it was Nellie Bly, Amelia Earhart, you can go on down the line. But I know a absolute female hero. Her name is Polly Litovsky. And this lady comes from literally Vail, Colorado. I mean, she's just down the road from me. And at the age of 50, she set out to walk around the world. I'm telling you, walk around the world. And in fact, she wrote a book called 3 Miles Per Hour, My Walk Around the World. Polly Litovsky, Letofsky. I've read her book. I've been to some of her seminars.
Wow.
She inspires women to get off their fannies and get out there and just get after life. So anybody who wants to get inspired, it's just 3 MPH with her on the front there as she travels around the world. Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
So anyway, again, it's unending, the human spirit. And so this summer, you all have been housed and I've been housed and so forth. But I also did all of my research. And I know that COVID is affecting us, 220,000 deaths, 1 million people have been affected by it, and so forth and so on. At the same time, there's zinc and there's vitamin D, which I take in the morning and at night, and Sandy also does the same thing. We use our protections, and we also do things like shopping when nobody else is in the grocery store. And we also know that it's
Frosty,
much less...
Zinc, vitamin D3, selenium, NAC. Don't forget NAC. That's N-acetylcysteine. NAC.
Right. I take it every
Allicin
night.
C is the biggest killer of these organisms that I know about. And then colloidal silver. Those are the things I take every day. Colloidal silver, Allicin C, selenium, vitamin D3, zinc, and NAC.
And there you go. And please realize that if you're a healthy person, you eat well, and you take care of body, mind, and spirit, you have less than a 1% chance of becoming a victim of COVID.
That's totally right, of course.
Yeah,
and
it exactly is.
6%, was it 6 or 8% of the fatalities claimed to be coronavirus fatalities only had coronavirus infections. Only. That's all they had. The other 92 or 94% all had serious comorbidities. And the virus may have tipped them over, but they died with coronavirus, not necessarily because of it. There are a lot
exactly
of them. So
correct.
I don't believe those statistics for 1 minute are credible in the larger sense. I think they have to be qualified. They have to be taken apart and studied as the odd constructs that they are. Go ahead.
Exactly correct. And so with that, as you look at this adventure series, I've put 4 beautiful photographs into every part of the description, because, I had to kind of move fast, so that I want to make sure you get entertained but also learn from it. And this will probably continue for a total of 10 parts to the series, Adventures Across America, for the summer of 2020. And one of the things that I find fun in life, of course, bicycling is my most favorite, but I also own a motorcycle, and I've been riding a motorcycle since I was 19, old Honda 90. And so anyway, you're going to see my friends and I take off on a 2,000-mile trip, about 2,500 miles here in the West, and we took in about 6 states all the way into California. And you'll see a shot of Rick Hoyne. And Rick Hoyne has been a friend of mine for over 35 years. He went to Alaska with me back in 80. He's also the father of Scott Hoyne. And Scott Hoyne went with us in 2003. And Scott Hoyne is the creator and the leader of Pentatonics. And that is a cappella group, and that's his son. And, of course, Rick there is about 6'4", and his son's about 6'4" also. But his son is very, very creative, and, in fact, his father plays guitar, and the son just picked up on that. And then his son created Pentatonics. They sell the most records and CDs during Christmas than all other crooners combined. That's how popular they are here in the 21st century.
Wow.
And so anyway, then there's the other friend in the middle, and that's Don Lindahl, and he turned 70, and he said, I've got to do something in life instead of working. And so we took him across America on a bicycle trip for 4,100 miles, and we did a 12,000-mile trip to Alaska and the Arctic Circle with him there in 2017. So he jumped on the adventure highway. So what that means is that anyone can do this at any time. And during this adventure, I'm going to share with each reader not only the pictures, but who and why different people turn out to be like a Polly Litovsky, or get to be like a Heinz Stuck, or even any and all of those who are travelers. And so I take you, first of all, to the destination of Colorado National Monument in Fruita, Colorado. And what it has is a 17-mile loop, which I've bicycled many times. I've backpacked into the middle of it, but it has unbelievable erosion from the thousands of times that oceans advanced and then retreated and left these incredible sandstone monuments that were carved by erosion, ice, and snow, and so forth. Yeah. And you get to stare down into them, and you get to be either inside of them, or you can ride right along the top, and you can see them, and they are so beautiful, as you can see in the picture.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, it's really stunning, and I shot 1,000 pictures, but I only can give a few. But you get the picture, and so then we took off and we went into.
Quick question. The motorcycles. Those are Gold Wings
and BMWs. Yeah, BMW in the middle, 2 Gold Wings on the left and right. Mine's on the right there. That's the black one, and his is the silver one.
Keep looking. I don't see a Harley there. Anyway.
Well, as a matter of fact,
I'll go look at my garage tomorrow, Frosty.
Okay. Well, the one in the middle, Don Lindahl, he has a Harley. He's got a Harley. So, but I advised him that to do such a long trip, 12,000 miles.
It's hard.
It's hard on your butt.
Like a BMW. Yeah.
BMW. He's got a luxury machine there.
Yeah. That is.
and just behind us there is the Continental Divide.
Yeah. The other thing about going on a motorcycle trip, I guess you can camp anywhere. The same old thing. Just people don't have to go to a motel. That would kind of ruin everything. And now with all the electronics and you could take a tablet with you, and you can watch movies. You can do anything. It's all portable.
In fact, Rick and Don had full charging of their phones, their laptops. Rick was the trip went on his
solar
his
chargers.
Oh yeah, solar chargers, but he's got it fixed up so you just plug it in the whole machine and it'll charge up and take care of you. And so for those of you who have never been to Arches National Park, I highly recommend it. You see a shot of me sitting in front of Delicate Arch that looks like the bottom half of a cowboy's chaps, is what a lot of people say. It just looks like a cowboy that he's missing from the waist up. But from the waist down, this piece of rock was carved by nature, and it took literally thousands and thousands and thousands of years, if not a million years, to do that. And there you have it. You got to hike in about an hour and something minutes to get to Delicate Arch. I've been there dozens of times. I go there all the time, and I'm always sitting there. Sandy and I sit there in just wonder of how beautiful and how exquisite it is. And then you can also see a stone bridge, which is called Landscape Arch, and that's 103 yards long. And at some point, it's got to break and collapse on itself, but it's like an arc. It's like a Roman bridge, and the stone
strongest
just pressures
natural formation there is.
Yep,
the arch.
It's the longest natural formation in the world.
Strongest.
103 yards.
Yeah, it's also the strongest. Any arch. Very, very tough. Great pictures. Okay, let's look at number 2 here.
Okay, 2, yeah. And also, there's a shot there in Utah where we're just looking at these huge mountains, and that of course, is just absolutely exquisite up there. So anyway, I show where we're going into Bryce and Zion. We have campfires, and there you see a shot as we're standing out there in the Grand Canyon. And you're seeing a shot of Sandy and me, so that's a lot of fun. And then instead of just taking pictures,
before you hold on, go back one. You got the 2 bikes, and then look up on top of that rise in the background. Look at those stone formations.
That's Bryce. That's Bryce National Park.
Wow.
They're called hoodoos. Those things are called hoodoos, and there's literally thousands of them that balance, and at some point they fall, just like balancing rock in Arches National Park. And for those of you who really like to know about Arches National Park further, read the book Desert Solitaire by Edward Abbey. It was one of his most famous classic books, and I've got all of his books. I've got signed copies of his books, and he was known as the Henry David Thoreau of the West.
Edward Albee?
Edward Abbey, A-B-B-E-Y.
Abbey,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Edward Abbey. And he wrote Desert Solitaire, and that was his seasons in Arches National Park. And I'll tell you, it's a stunning read. I've never met a man who could write and bring a sunset alive on a page, or you watch two snakes dancing, mating, and they tangle with each other, and he describes this unbelievably. And so yeah, Desert Solitaire is one of the great reads out there, so I would highly recommend it. And hoodoos. That's
hoodoos.
Yeah.
Now, you're standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon.
Yep.
Is that one of those promontories that there's really not a whole lot underneath it, or is there stuff underneath it?
Yeah, that's a promontory that goes out into the Grand Canyon. Now, I will share this with you. I have backpacked into the Grand Canyon 8 times. I have also rafted into the Grand Canyon 217 miles from Lee's Ferry to Diamond Creek Takeout. I wrote a book. It's called Rafting the Rolling Thunder, A Journey Through the Grand Canyon, and it's available on Amazon. But it's my 17 days through 1.7 billion years of extraordinary sculpting by nature. And as you can see in the background of this picture, it is endlessly creative. And nature down there on that Colorado River, it's a mile below that place where we're standing right there. And I got to tell you, it will, if you ever get a chance to raft the Grand Canyon on the Colorado River, it will be in the top 10 of all your life experiences. It's certainly in the top 10 of mine.
Is that the river on the left of that picture down?
Yeah, you can't see it because it's right.
Okay.
If you go to the tip and you go right down to the left there, then that the Colorado River's way down inside that canyon right there.
I see you standing out there with Sandy, and I don't think you know the feeling of a fear of heights. You start, your legs get weak, and it's not a good feeling. And I get that feeling looking at you two standing there. I would not do that on no chance.
Well, yeah, I've climbed all of Colorado's 14,000 footers. I've climbed in the Himalayas. I've climbed to the base camp of Mount Everest. I've climbed in Antarctica. I've climbed in Alaska. So heights for me it's pretty much it's just a natural place for me to be. So
I just my feet, when I'm in something like that, I've been a few times. It's like my feet they're just not feeling comfortable, like they're really solidly attached to the ground below them, like they're going to suddenly move out from under me. That's weird. Yeah. Anyway, congratulations.
Well, admittedly, people do fall into the Grand Canyon every summer. They get on the edge.
Oh, yes, I've seen those stories.
Yeah,
all right, now
die.
There's Sandy. Look at what a doll.
Yeah. I have to tell you, Sandy's a highly effervescent, high-energy woman. She was a registered nurse most of her working life. She raised 2 fabulous boys, and she has been the light and the energy of my life. And, of course, I think it was 3 requisites when I first started going with her. You got to love dancing, you got to love camping, and you got to love biking. Those were the prerequisites. And so after 7 years, she finally said yes.
That's funny. That's funny.
Well, and she couldn't help herself because I asked her to marry me on the dance floor because I met her on the dance floor. I asked her to marry me to Elvis Presley's "Can't Help Falling in Love with You," and she said yes. And we're still dancing.
That's really nice.
It's very nice. So, and then camping. For those of you who love to camp or those of you who can't stand camping, here's a picture, and it's in the Valley of the Gods, and that's in southeast Utah. It's south of Monticello. It's south of, and of course, Canyonlands is there, and we've been to Canyonlands and that big horseshoe with the Colorado River. I've got shots of that also. But when I go camping, I pitch my tent. So when I wake up in the morning, it's looking at Mount Everest. It's looking at Denali there in Alaska. It's looking at Cotopaxi down in South America. Here in the Valley of the Gods, as you can see out the tent there, in the morning you wake up and boy, there are those Valley of the Gods, the hoodoos, if you will, and the beauty is just exquisite. As the sun rises and or sets, you get to have that kind of a picture, and that is in the Valley of the Gods.
Well, terrific. All right, let's jump up to... Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. Part 3?
As a mountain climber, I can state that you might want to stop staring at yonder mountains. Instead, get out of your vehicle, tramp through the woods, and climb them, or raft the rivers, or canoe that mountain lake, or sling on that backpack for a walk into the wilderness, or pedal that mountain bike into a wild adventure. You'll be glad you did for your lifetime. That's just one of my thoughts on having a great time in the wilderness, because it truly is. It's truly fantastic to get out there in the middle of it, and it just makes your body, mind, and spirit feel so good.
You've, I'm sure, been the cause of a lot of people doing things just like that over the years of just being the wonderful ambassador to nature that you are.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I do get some really nice letters from people across the nation and Canada, and even from other countries. They are appreciative because they feel the zest and they feel the energy in the writing, and they love the pictures. So part 3 here is we're going into Death Valley, and for those of you who don't know this, I've bicycled through Death Valley 3 times now, and it has been 116 degrees, some of the hottest bicycling I've done. The Atacama Desert, which is the driest and desert in the world, along the Chilean coast there. Well, Death Valley is even hotter than that one, and I've done it on motorcycle probably a half dozen times, but 3 times on a bicycle, and it is quite an adventure, because you're breathing air at 182 feet below sea level down there at Badwater. And I'll never forget, to this day, I had a trip way back 25 years ago on the bicycle, and I forget which year it was, and it was 116 degrees. It was the first April that had the highest temperature, and I think this summer the temperature has gone over 125 something. But anyway, we were sitting there cooking our butts off because we were having to push through the Henry Wade exit, which was all gravel, for about 60, 70 miles. And a couple from Germany came up in a car, and they said, and in English, they said, "Do you realize how hot it is, gentlemen?" We said, "Yeah, we heard it was going to be over 100. They said, "Well, it's 116. So they pulled out 2 cold pears from their cooler and 2 cans of ice-cold lemonade, and I got their card, and they got my card. And I visited them in Germany on my last trip to Europe, and they've been friends of mine. They visited me here, and it's been that I'll never forget the cold pear and the lemonade from these very kind Germans that caught us in Death Valley that day."
Very good. Is that second picture of Death Valley? I'm trying to move a little quicker here. The sand dunes. Is that a railroad on the left going off into the distance? There's a black line
there's no railroads down there. There were only borax teams with 20.
Is that a road then? There's a black line that goes off in the distance. It's a road.
Oh, yeah, that's a road, right. And the road is the only thing that cuts through there. They don't have anything else. There were 20 mule borax teams when they used to pull borax out of there. So, and it's got burrows. When the burrows used to be they used to have burrows. The old miners would have burrows, and they would mine, and they let them go. And then now there's wild burrows, but mostly it's just cactus and weeds and burrows and rocks and lizards.
No. All right, next picture.
Next picture,
Falls.
yes. You travel and you get to Yosemite, and you see the extraordinary Yellowstone, Yosemite Falls there, and it just drops into the valley. And, of course, you all know that the reason we have our national park system is because John Muir, the first ecologist and naturalist, was from Scotland, and then he walked all the way out to California to see what this Yosemite Valley was all about. And he is the reason that we have 421 national parks that have preserved gems like this in the wilderness. And we're sitting there looking at it. That's Rick pointing at Yellowstone Falls. And that is just a sight to see in the spring. And you've got Merced Falls, you got the Merced River, you've got it all. And then from there, we went to Sequoia National Park. And for those of you who don't know this, sequoia trees are 2,500 years old. They weigh 120 tons, and they stretch 300 feet, or a football field, into the sky. A football field into the sky, and they expel about 500 gallons of water every single day of the year. Is that wild? And I want to share this with you on that one just before we go ahead. I have a poem here for each one of you to digest. And I think it's something that would help you become an adventurer, even if it was on a weekend. It doesn't make any difference. You choose your adventures. And this was from a man named Dean Alfange, 1899 to 1989. Quote, I do not choose to be a common man or woman. It is my right to be uncommon if I can. I seek opportunity, not security. I do not wish to be a kept citizen, humbled and dulled by having the state look after me. I want to take the calculated risk, to dream and to build, to fail and to succeed. I refuse to barter incentive for a dole. I prefer the challenges of life to the guaranteed existence, the thrill of fulfillment to the stale calm of utopia or comfort. I will not trade freedom for beneficence, nor my dignity for a handout. I will never cower before any master, nor bend to any threat. It is my heritage to stand erect, proud and unafraid, to think and act for myself, enjoy the benefit of my creations, and to face the world boldly and say, this I have done, unquote.
Very nice.
Is that wild?
Nice. Yeah. Very nice.
Yeah. Touching.
Okay, let's try and jump in on one more here. Maybe we can squeeze two. We'll try it real quick. And then I want you all to go back and read these. We're just taking a little picture tour here real quick. All right. Oops. Let me see. Let's see if we can get number 4, Frosty, or number 3?
Yeah, 4. Yeah, 4.
All right.
Okay, number 4, we're sitting here, and this is the second part of the journey this summer. We're on bicycles now. And so I took a rented car, took it up to Glacier there in Kalispell, and I took my friend David, and to ride a bicycle over the road going to the sun, which was built by the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps, back in 1930s, and it was promoted by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. This is an extraordinary experience. I don't care if you take a motorcycle or a car or a bicycle. If you take a bicycle, you're going to feel it like nothing else. But to climb the road going to the sun, you pass the Weeping Wall, where the water flies out of the rocks. There in the springtime, you can take a shower if you want, and you get to the top, Logan's Pass, about 6 hours later, and about 150 photographs, which I love to take. And then, so the shot at the top there is Mount Clements behind us, and there is that canyon on the eastern side. And, of course, you get to see Birdwomen's Falls, and that Birdwomen's Falls is over 400 feet of a waterfall, and of course you get to see a lot of there's a grizzly right there, and that was a small grizzly, and we knew that a mother would be right near her, so we took this shot, and we got our little tail feathers out of there, and then as you can see, I'm standing by a waterfall right there that's coming down from the snowfields, and that is so beautiful. And at the end of this, part 4, Frank Cawthorn is a man from California that I met in Yellowstone, And I asked him, why does he love bicycling so much? And he gives a little rendition of why he loves bicycling so much. And you'll find that sense of community. You'll find that sense of body, mind, and spirit, and you'll find that sense of adventure in his explanation of that. So that's what I'm trying to share with each one of you as this series goes on.
Very good. Frosty, thank you very much for all you do and for sharing these with us tonight. Just terrific.
All right. Well, Jeff, thank you very much. I look forward to our time again, and we'll get some serious things talked about. But each one of us, let's have fun in our lives. You no matter what's happening on the national front, personally, you can take charge of your life. You get to live your life, go on your mini adventures, your week adventures too. It doesn't make any difference.